Hey homeowners, so you want to learn about contracts, contractors, and red flags. So I'm glad that you're here so we can dive into some of those issues. But I want to make sure that you saw last week's video because that was about the do's and don'ts of dealing with contractors. So slightly different information, but equally important, so be sure that you check it out. And definitely subscribe because every week Hip Chicks comes out with a new video that is all focused on saving you money, stress, and time. That's what I built this whole business around, was helping homeowners make the most of the biggest financial investment of your lives, which is your home. So I want to make sure that you have all of the knowledge, the skill, and the guts that you need to be the best homeowner you can. So let's dive in to the keys for a solid contract for renovations. Of course, the most important piece of this is to make sure that the price is clearly stated and that the terms are clearly identified as well. Typically, you want to be putting down 15 to 20% of the total project bid as a deposit. And then you might have incremental payments, maybe 2 payments as you go, that will help get more materials and keep the project moving. Now, at the end, for your final payment, it is not unreasonable, totally fair for you as a homeowner to say, I would like to hold 10% as a final payment. And that is to be paid after the work is done and you have walked through the project with the contractor and looked for any problems. This way, that little 10% holdback will make sure that he finishes up that little punch list of things and that you just don't have him disappear onto the next big project and you're left with unfinished things that you've paid for but not received. You should have a rough estimate from the contractor about the time to complete the project. Now, if it's an outdoor project, certainly there are weather constraints that you can't control. But in terms of indoor, is this a 1 week, 2 week? Is this going to be an 8 week, full addition off the back of a house? Have those clearly identified, and yet you need to understand as the homeowner that things happen. There could be a delay in materials, there could be an injury, there could be a setback by a code issue that pops up and you weren't expecting. So obviously you want to have a time limit, but it needs to be a little bit flexible. You want to clearly define your work hours. Will he be working only Monday through Friday, or will he be willing to work on weekends? Are Sundays a no-go for you because it's a family day? Make sure that that's all clear and you both agree upon it. Address permits. Who is picking up the permits and applying for those? Sometimes the homeowner will do it, and sometimes the contractor will. And who is paying for that? Is that already built into the price, or is that an additional fee? How do you get in touch with the foreman? Is your contact person the owner? Is it the foreman, or is it the guy that will be showing up and doing the work on a daily basis? Make sure that you have identified who is your go-to and how to reach them. Whether it's phone, text, email, whatever works best, make sure that you all understand how to communicate with each other. Make sure that they have the proper contact information for you, because if you are in the office and there's a problem at the house, they need to be able to get a hold of you quickly, and it may be they need a secretary's phone number. Materials. Make sure you've identified the high, middle, or low cost materials that you will be using. Sometimes contractors will identify that they will, pick out light fixtures between, $100 or $200, and that'll be the agreed amount. That is the budget that is allowed. So in the meantime, you find and fall in love with a particular light fixture and it's $400. So he's not going to pay the extra $200 out of pocket when he has planned and budgeted for $200. So be prepared that there are items that you have to identify where they fall in a different pricing category. What is the change order process? When there is a change in that light fixture per se, how do you go about that? If he did allocate $200 and now you want the $400 one, you agree that you're adding that on at the end, or are you going to go pick it up out of pocket and he owes you $200 back? Make sure that the process for giving and taking of materials is clearly identified. Warranties. What are the warranties on his work What are the warranties on the materials? Now, they will vary differently based on what materials they're using, where they've gotten them, things like that. Make sure that you understand the labor versus the parts, and ask him to very clearly save you all of the manuals and even the empty boxes of the devices being installed. Say you're having ceiling fans put in your home. So ask him to leave the boxes for you so that you can cut off the UPC seal on the side that has the model number and the name and the manufacturer so that you can put it with your receipts. Say down the road you have a problem with that fan, you know exactly what it was that went up, and you can have the information to call and maybe get replacement parts and not have to replace the whole product. So here is my red flag section. These are the things that you need to be very aware of, you need to look for, and you need to be prepared to run for the hills if you see these issues are of big concern to you. So let's start with the first one, which is underfinanced. That means when your contractor is starting your project and he comes to you and the project is, say, $12,000 total, and he's asking you for $8,000 up front, whoa, red flag. That means he does not have enough money on the books to possibly pay his employees and to get material started. So it's important that you expect to pay about 15 to 20% as your deposit. Do not pay more than that. I have seen occasions where the materials side of a project is heavier, so maybe you have to put out 30% to get the ball rolling, but be very aware of what the expectation is for the funding up front. Never ever pay it in cash. It should be used with credit card or check, and it should be given a receipt so that you have a paper trail of the money that you have put out to start the project. Underrated. It's important that you look at the reviews that you can find on a contractor. Now, there is Yelp, there are Google, there are local homeowner community reviews that you can try to find. I don't want to say that you shouldn't use a contractor that doesn't have a social media footprint, but it does help, and it does give them some validity and some clout that other people have used them, have made, rave reviews or made some negative reviews. So definitely do a little bit of homework on the contractors before you agree to sign. And don't be afraid to Google someone who wrote a review and reach out and ask them about an experience. Now keep in mind that there are those people out there who will write the most negative reviews over the most mundane things. So, he broke my light fixture. Well, yeah, something happened. Maybe he did. Maybe the light fixture dropped and broke and you had to get a new one. Things like that can happen. But does that mean overall this was a bad contractor? No. So take every review with a little grain of salt and do your own investigative work. Obviously, word of mouth from people that you know, like, and trust are definitely your best options in terms of getting a fair review. Underdocumented. If a contractor does not want to provide you information about the project in writing, run for the hills. You want to have a written contract of all of the things that we just discussed. It's so important to not do the handshake, pat on the back contract. Things are just too complicated today. There's too many players involved. Protect yourself and have a simple paper trail. Document of a contract doesn't have to be 12 pages long. It can be 2 or 3 pages. It can even be 1 page if you feel that everything is covered. But under-documenting a project is not a good idea. Then we have the uninsured. So it is imperative that your contractor be insured. To me, that is more important than being licensed and bonded because that varies a lot by state and municipality. But the insurance piece is so vital. If there is a problem at your home that either your home is damaged or someone is injured, you have to make sure that they have coverage for such things. So don't be afraid to ask them for a certificate of their insurance. I have one as a contractor. We all have one if we are insured. So don't be afraid to ask. It has a date and an expiration on it so that you can know that that company is providing coverage. Unlicensed. I just alluded to this, and licensing can vary a lot by state. And I'll be very frank. Some states, like Pennsylvania, do not have a test or threshold to verify someone's skill level as a general contractor. So it is important that you don't just say, oh, they have a license. Different states have different thresholds to actually get a contractor's license. So you need to be very aware that just because they're licensed doesn't mean they have a skill set, doesn't mean that they are ethical. My license is a very general license as a handyman. My insurance limits my activities. I'm not allowed to do roofing. I am not allowed to rewire or replumb a house. Now, do I know how to do some of these projects? Absolutely. But I will not agree to do those for a client because I'm not insured to do so. So it doesn't matter whether or not I'm licensed. The insurance piece is really very key. And again, you want to hope that the person is ethical enough to say, that's out of my scope of insurance. Let's bring in someone else who can do that. And that's what a contractor should do. Keep moving if your contractor is unresponsive. If they don't return your calls promptly, if they don't take the time and the attention to answer your questions, I would move on. So if they're not calling you back before the project even starts, then they're really not after your business. And once you get started, if they stop responding, well, remember, you do have money that you haven't paid them yet. And you can always pick up with someone else. So that's important. You need them to be responsive. And the other piece to that is to communicate to you what's happening at your house so that on a daily basis, you should be able to say to him, where are we on the project? And they can say, well, we're 90% done framing and we'll be able to finish that up probably by noon tomorrow. And then we'll be able to move on to electric and plumbing, So they should be able to communicate clearly to you and they should be willing to take a few minutes every day and answer your questions. And if they're not willing to educate you, I'm out because I want a contractor that's going to empower me as a homeowner to take care of my property long after he's gone. This last red flag to me is the most important. And I'm speaking to the ladies here, but men, you will get a sense of this absolutely. If you have a contractor that is unsettling, you need to move on. We often get a vibe from the first time we meet someone about someone's character, about someone's mental well-being, their emotional well-being, and that matters. Now, I'm not saying that we should shun anyone who doesn't walk in our door and is happy, bubbly, and going to be your best friend, but there is a vibe that you feel from someone. Whether or not this is a person that you can feel safe with, that you can trust in your home, and that you can trust around your family. I have heard many stories from women who have had bad experiences. One right down to an assault, down to a woman who was just catcalled and made uncomfortable in her own kitchen by a contractor. If you feel anything like that from a man or even a woman contractor that is brought into your home to do work, you immediately exit your home with your cell phone, you call the police, and you ask to have someone come to the house. If you have a foreman or an owner of the business that you can call rather than a policeman, that might be a little gentler route to go. But if you feel that your physical safety is in danger, exit the home and call the police. Don't take any chances. This is really too important. And as women in particular, we have just a gut instinct, an intuition that we need to listen to. So your safety matters more than anybody's hurt feelings. I've heard stories about contractors that have shown up drunk, that have made untoward advances, and actually do know of a story of a homeowner that was killed by a contractor. So it is important that you trust your gut. We all need to have a few good contractors in our back pocket, but I focus primarily this business on empowering homeowners to do it yourselves because I really believe that you can tackle so many, from small repairs to small electric and plumbing, to design, to outdoor projects, to carpentry. I built an entire academy around this idea. It's called the Home Improvement Hero Academy, and it's to take you on a journey as a homeowner so that you can be your own hero, that you save money, stress, and time. Hope you subscribe, hope you follow us again, and feel free to go to the description box where you can check out my Home Improvement Hero Academy, and you can also check out my 5 tips to save $500 or more on home repairs. And these are repairs you can absolutely do yourself. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.